This is CBC Here and Now.
Back-to-back systems this weekend, bringing snow to Labrador and then rain and mild temperatures to the island.
We prosecute, unfortunately, too many sexual assaults. And I've never seen one go for 7 years for 3 trials. So this is a very unique and rare circumstance.
4 years in prison. An RNC officer is sentenced for sexually assaulting a woman while on the job.
We're very excited to be back and in the venue.
After being forced to take a break last year due to COVID-19, the 47th annual Craft Council's Craft Fair is back.
It's a wonderful way of interacting with other artists.
That story coming up.
Welcome to Here and Now. I'm Carolyn Stokes. Disgraced RNC officer Doug Snelgrove has been sentenced to 4 years in prison. He was found guilty of sexual assault in May and has stood trial 3 times in the last 6 years. Today we heard more from the judge who made the decision. Here and Now's Meg Roberts was in the courtroom this afternoon and she joins us now live from the newsroom. So Meg, tell us more about that verdict.
Well, outside the courtroom, Jane Doe and her family hugged and cried after Doug Snelgrove was sentenced to 4 years in prison. Snelgrove's name will also go on the registered sex offenders list for the next 20 years. Justice Vikas Kaladkar called Snelgrove's actions reprehensible after listing the facts of the case. In 2014, Jane Doe was assaulted in her apartment by Snelgrove. The on-duty officer had driven her home from a club in his patrol car. During the trial, Jane Doe testified that she did not remember consenting to the sexual acts between them and told the court she was in physical pain for a week after the assault and had faced anxiety and depression ever since. The judge said Snelgrove's actions have scarred the RNC and blemished the entire justice system. He said members of the public must have confidence that a breach in trust from authority will be dealt with appropriately by the courts and wanted to set a precedent for other people in positions of power. The judge said he can't give the victim back her old life, but he hopes she feels vindicated. The Crown Attorney said he was pleased with today's ruling. They'd asked for 5 years and for Snelgrove to be designated as a sex offender. Now, while the defense recommended a sentence of 18 to 24 months, the Crown Attorney told reporters this was a unique case that took far too long, but in the end, a decision was made.
Judicial independence is a cornerstone of our system, and I appreciate the judges make errors. It's not an easy job, but at the end of the day, the system played it out. Do you know what I mean? The system repaired the damage, saw the matter to a resolution, and today Mr. Snelgrove got 4 years imprisonment. So there you go.
So for you, it worked?
It worked. It took longer than you wanted and anyone wanted, but the system repaired any errors and reached a resolution. We're pleased with that.
Okay, so Meg, what happens now?
Well, Snelgrove has been in custody since September, and it's believed he will serve most of his prison time in segregation. It's not clear if he plans to appeal, but has 30 days to do so. We do know Snelgrove is still a sworn member of the RNC. We reached out to the RNC on that. It said with an appeal period now in progress, it would be inappropriate for the RNC to comment. It says criminal proceedings have to end before the RNC can take any disciplinary action against Snelgrove. Now, I think it's important to point out this case has started a larger conversation regarding the RNC and sexual assault. In July, 9 women came forward with sexual assault allegations against its officers. 3 reported that officers asked them to engage in sexual activity while giving the women a ride home. During the trials, it was discovered that the RNC does not have a policy specifying that officers report who they transport in their patrol car. RNC Superintendent Tom Warren said at the time some policies were dated, giving the constabulary the opportunity to go back and review the policies. Carolyn.
Thanks so much, Meg. That's Here Now's Meg Roberts reporting live. Well, supporters of Jane Doe say they're surprised by today's verdict, pleasantly surprised. Throughout the Snelgrove trials, including an earlier acquittal and a mistrial, protesters often gathered on the steps of the Supreme Court building in St. John's. Heather Elliott says she hopes this is a sign the justice system is slowly moving in the right direction.
Most people I spoke to in the run-up to this, we knew that the Crown was asking for 5. The community expectation was like 2.5 to 3. And that was us being optimistic. So to see Kaladkar go with 4 and to acknowledge the impact that this has had on Jane really gives me hope. I'm happy with that.
Well, it was certainly a chilly day out there today. Temperatures only a few degrees above zero in some cases across the island. Reached about 4 degrees in Bonavista, 5 in Marystown. Those temperatures well below zero up across Labrador, Lab City, up to about -5 today. That is the coldest day that you've seen so far. And what's happening today is an area of high pressure just to the south and an area of low pressure well off to the west. That is going to be the next weather maker, certainly as we head through the night tonight. And you can see on the future tracker that snow will move in across Labrador, at least Lab West, and then eventually towards central Labrador as we get into the morning hours. Some snow for parts of the island as well, but then that's going to transition to rain as we head through the afternoon on Saturday, and some heavy rain at times through the evening hours. Also going to come with some warmer temperatures, which will be nice, but we do have rainfall warnings in place for the Canagra Peninsula as well as the Burin Peninsula, and then a wreck house wind warning in place. I will get into all the details when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, public health officials are lifting some capacity requirements around formal gatherings. Starting tomorrow, indoor and outdoor gatherings at weddings and funerals where food is not involved may operate at full capacity without distancing. Proof of vaccination and masks are required. Events where food is served can have groups of up to 200 people. People must maintain distancing and wear masks. The chief medical officer says in a news release the changes are because of the decreasing number of cases and high vaccination rates. And speaking of cases, there are 6 new confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the province today. 1 case is a woman in the Eastern Health region. 5 are in the Central region. Those numbers include 1 person under 20 and 3 people in their 60s. All 6 of them are contacts of earlier cases. So that makes 40 active cases of COVID-19 in the province. And due to the province's ongoing healthcare hack, the portal to check COVID test results is not available. The province says anyone who tests positive will be contacted by public health within 72 hours. And if you've not heard from anyone by then, you can assume your test is negative. Well, vaccine passports from other provinces are now being accepted here. The province says its NL Vax Verify system is now able to accept the QR codes from all provinces and territories in Canada. Now, this province is not able to accept out-of-province medical exemptions at this time. So far, the passes of people from this province traveling to others is not as widely accepted. The NL Vax Pass is accepted in Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia, and Saskatchewan. The health department says it is working with the remaining provinces and territories to accept Newfoundland and Labrador's QR code. Well, 2 weeks after the healthcare system in the province was crippled by a cyber attack, at least one area is now getting back to near normal. Plus, we've learned new details about what happened to personal data accessed during the attack. Here now, Peter Cowan is on this story again for us tonight. So, Peter, let's start with the good news about some services resuming. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, Carolyn, the good news is from Central Health. It says as of Monday, it's able to resume almost all the services it could do before the attack. Let's give you some examples. So it's surgeries, not just emergency or urgent, but any elected procedures that were scheduled, they're going to go ahead. As well, medical imaging, so things like x-rays and MRIs, laboratory services like blood work, also back up and running. Now, the reason all of this can happen is because some of the key systems that they needed to work electronically are now back. The medical imaging system and the laboratory digital systems are back up, so those results are able to be reported electronically rather than the paper workarounds, and that's how they've been doing things for the past 2 weeks. There are some systems like pharmacy, they're still doing paper-based workarounds, but they're adding extra staff and they've figured out ways to be able to do it. They're also going to need to catch up from 2 weeks of canceled appointments and procedures.
We will look at doing things like extending hours in certain programs and areas, look at putting extra resources in certain programs. We will also have our clinicians reviewing any of the impacted appointments to ensure that the urgent and the most urgent appointments get booked in quickly.
Now, this is for Central Health. We're waiting for details from Eastern Health. Western Health said today that they're still not ready for elective surgeries, but they are doing lab work and imaging again. Now, it's a good sign that 2 weeks into this crisis, some of those important systems are finally working again. We also did get one new detail about the attack. Now, earlier this week, officials said data was accessed from key areas, including patient information as well as employee personal information. Now they're saying their investigation found it was actually copied by the hackers.
What the investigation has shown and what we're certain of at this point in time is that employee information for those regional health authorities has been taken. We don't have confirmation yet with regards to patient information and patient data. But again, ongoing complex investigation, continue to update when we get information.
Now, they continue to say that they don't have any sort of evidence that this information has been misused, and they said their investigation is looking at places, for example, like on the dark web, where hackers tend to post this information, and they say they found no evidence so far that it has been posted. Carolyn?
Thanks so much, Peter. That's Here Now's Peter Cowan reporting live. Well, can you believe that Christmas is just 6 weeks away? One sign of the season is the Craft Council's annual Christmas fair. It's back in Torbay after the pandemic forced organizers to cancel last year. The 47th annual event is an important moneymaker for local artisans who rely on the showcase. But as our Jeremy Eaton reports, one vendor says this year will be her last.
Good? Yeah, we're good. Donna Clouston's picturesque calendars are a hot item come Christmas, but after more than 40 years, she's calling the 2022 calendar the last she'll make. A difficult decision made easy after COVID-19 forced her costs to nearly double.
For some time now, it's been dicey as to whether it was even worth doing, and the people who work with me have made the decision they don't want to do it anymore either, and I'm done. I just feel like it's time for me to go on to something else.
The artist sells more than 1,000 of these every year, but now will focus on other work.
I do watercolors and I do woodworking, and I'd like to continue on. Oh, and I dye yarn. So it would be fun to continue on with all of that without the pressure of having to try and make a living from it.
Continuing, because Clouston has been involved with every single Christmas craft fair.
I'm pretty proud of all the craftspeople who have now, in many cases, are making a living. It's not a hobby anymore.
Everything here is handmade, it's juried, it's a juried show, so it's not like any of the other shows. And, economic spin-off from this particular event is somewhere in the vicinity of $500,000 to $600,000 in 4 days.
It's expected 6,000 people will visit these vendors. With COVID-19 forcing last year's event to be canceled, these artisans are happy to be back. And with holiday shopping in full force, the hope is that shoppers will look local.
All of the larger stores are struggling, so you can only imagine how the small entrepreneur that's working out of their basement or in their garage is struggling as well. So any support that we get locally is very much appreciated.
It's not just a towny thing. Vendors travel from all over, including these Inuk artists from Labrador.
I have slippers, earrings, tree ornaments, and sealskin clothesline.
It helps us to promote our culture and to make awareness, I guess, of our culture.
On the other side of the arena, Clouston will sell her calendars until her supplies run out and savor the chats with the fans she's made.
I've made friends for some of them, and some, I've watched over 42 years, I've watched, get married, have kids, their kids are buying calendars, it's been quite a thing to watch.
Vax passes and masks are required here at the Jack Byrne Arena in Torbay. The 47th annual craft fair runs until Sunday. Jeremy Eaton, CBC News, Torbay.
Well, it's definitely going to be a good weekend to be inside. We've got lots of rain on the way for some areas. However, it does come with some milder temperatures. I'll have all the forecast details when I come back.
The two boat-building brothers who've never forgotten their craft or the place they came from. The Allen Brothers, Sunday at 11:30 and Monday at 7.
What a weird old day out there today in St. John's. It was sunny and then it was snowing and raining and it was bizarre.
A little bit of everything. I tweeted out, we got everything but the kitchen sink today out there. Yeah, it was chilly too. Temperatures bumped up and then down. At one point it was 3 degrees and then it dropped down to 1 degree. Yeah,
all over the place.
All over the place today. Let's take a look at where we're sitting now. Those temperatures have started to drop though. Now sitting at 1 degree in St. John's, 2 in Bonavista. And those numbers below 0 as you head towards Central and the West Coast, and even more so for Labrador. Nain currently sitting at about -5 right now. So what's going on is that area of low pressure that's responsible for all that wind has moved further offshore, and then we've got an area of high pressure to the south. Lots of cold air being funneled down for most of the island today. And if we zoom in a little bit, you can see some bands of cloud cover, if I can point it out right there. And then all across the Avalon is what we're seeing, those flurries and or mixed with some rain for the Avalon at times. But picked up a few centimeters in Gander today. But taking a look at what's on the way is an area of low pressure. Already seeing lots of snow and then some mixing as well. When you start to get into these purples and these pinks, that's mixing precipitation. We are going to see that head towards Labrador, at least the snow end of that head towards Labrador in the next couple of hours. That will get heavy at times through the night. That'll head through to central Labrador as we get into the early morning hours as well. And then as far as the island goes, these winds that we've been seeing for most of the day along the coast will eventually ease tonight, looking at about 20 to 40 kilometer per hour winds out of the north-northwest tonight. And then eventually we'll see that snow spread across the big land and then reach the northern peninsula and parts of the west coast as we get into the early morning hours. As far as snowfall goes for tonight, a good probably 10 to 15 centimeters looks likely for Lab West as you get into the first half of tomorrow. A little less as you head towards central Labrador. You're looking at about 2 to 5, likely closer to the 5 mark, and then you'll see even more snow as we get into the afternoon as well. Now, as far as the island goes, this takes us through to Saturday morning. That chance of flurries will move in the early morning hours, and you're looking at about 2 to 5 centimeters of snow falling for about 9, 10 o'clock in the morning for the northern peninsula. That's looking like where we'll see the most amount of snow. But overall, temperatures are going to dip tonight into the mid-minus single digits, -4 to -8 in those low-lying areas. Most of say the eastern half of the island should actually just see partly cloudy skies through the overnight and the winds easing, so it will be fairly quiet. And then for tomorrow, we're going to tap into lots of moisture, that moisture all the way through down to the southern Atlantic, and that's what we're going to tap into with this system. So we're going to see a lot of moisture through the day tomorrow. But again, starting as snow for the northern peninsula. So this will happen, say, between 8 and 10 o'clock. You might get a brief period of some ice pellets from, say, Bayvert Peninsula through to central. And then after that, a big push of mild air will move in and everything should change over to rain. The other thing to note is that wreck house wind warning. Those winds will be gusting upwards of about 100 kilometers per hour through the night tonight, rather into the morning hours. And then the winds are going to ramp up pretty much across the board, gusting somewhere between 60 and 90 kilometers per hour as we get into Saturday night. The rain will be heavy at times as well and continue right into Sunday, it looks like at this point. So as far as that rainfall amount goes and snowfall amount, like I said, looking at about trace to 2 centimeters is likely. The higher elevations could see a little bit more than that, but really it's rainfall. That's the story as we get into Sunday morning. A good chunk of southern Newfoundland will see somewhere between 30 to 50 millimeters of rain, and we could even see a little bit more than that in some of those areas that are in the rainfall. So Burin Peninsula as well as the Canagar Peninsula. you could see in excess of 50 millimeters. The other good thing with this one, though, other than the rain, is the temperatures are going to climb up tomorrow, 9 to about 11 degrees. That temperature in St. John's will be later on in the day, but it will climb. The winds will be generally out of the south or southeast, gusting anywhere from 70 to 80 kilometers per hour. But again, along southern areas, you could see a little bit more wind. And then staying on that cold side up across Labrador with the flurries or light snow continuing, hovering around -1 in Lab City. So that's the look at tomorrow's forecast. The rest of the weekend is looking wet, but I'll get into those details when I come back.
7 years later, a sentence for Doug Snelgrove. This afternoon, the suspended RNC officer was sentenced to 4 years in prison for sexual assault. The judge expects that time will be served in protective custody. Snelgrove will also be listed as a registered sex offender for the next 20 years. This after 3 trials for the sexual assault of Jane Doe, who was driven home by Snelgrove in a patrol car in 2014 and assaulted inside her apartment. Now, throughout these trials, community activists have been visible and vocal about a number of systemic issues this case has raised. Heather Elliott is one of those activists. Well, Heather, after all this time, how does 4 years sit with you?
4 years is better than I was expecting, to be honest. And I think Kaladkar's statement as he was reading out the sentencing about how the sentence has to reflect both the impact that this case has had on Jane Doe and also act as a deterrent to other officers who may consider this kind of behavior really spoke to the crux of the issue. It's also worth remarking, most people I spoke to in the run-up to this, we knew that the Crown was asking for 5. The community expectation was like 2.5 to 3, and that was us being optimistic. So to see Kaladkar go with 4 and to acknowledge the impact that this has had on Jane really gives me hope. I'm happy with that.
And I want to pick up on that last point, Heather, because we did hear the judge acknowledge the trauma and impact that all of this has had on Jane Doe. How important was it to you to hear that?
Incredibly important. So often when we see cases like this, we hear about the impact it's had on the person being held responsible for their actions. And there isn't a lot of conversation had about the impact that not only the initial assault had on the victim, but the impact of going through the process, and in Jane's case, 3 whole trials. So I think to hear Kaladkar really not only acknowledge that, but to say that he took that into consideration while coming down with this sentence, it shows me that we are, albeit slowly, moving in the right direction.
And the other thing, the judge said that the sentence should send a message to people who hold positions of power. And we've seen more women coming forward with sexual assault complaints, again, toward RNC officers. Now the province doing an independent review on the culture inside the police force. Mm-hmm. So how do you think the RNC can begin to repair the harm that's been done here?
I think there needs to be an actual public acknowledgement that there is something fundamentally broken in the culture of the RNC. I know, from speaking with officers who are in the service one-on-one, there are officers who are completely disgusted with Snelgrove's behavior and with the behavior of these other officers that have been reported. And they're doing their best on an individual level to try to reestablish respect within the community. But the fact is that I don't believe that the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary, as the public-facing institution, has really done a lot to try and start rebuilding those bridges. And I think the first key step is not only an acknowledgement that, yes, something is wrong here and we're trying to fix it, but also taking concrete steps to show us that it's not just lip service, that you are willing to take action. Because as Kaladkar himself referenced in his statement, this whole trial has really shattered what little public trust there was left between the community and the service. So they have a lot of work to do in terms of rebuilding that trust.
Snelgrove may be going away, but the systemic issues that you and other community activists have raised have not. What do you do with all that extra energy now?
A lot of that needs, obviously we take a moment to breathe, and then it really just does come down to not only pushing for accountability from within the RNC, but for me personally, my big focus is seeing change in how we handle sexual assault cases in this province. There are other provincial standards that have been set, specifically I'm thinking of the example in New Brunswick with their domestic violence court, where there is a way for us to restructure how we approach these cases when they come forward, and how we not only support our survivors, but find resources for perpetrators to try and break the cycle of violence. And so that's where a lot of my energy, and I know a lot of the energy of the activist community, will be going, is to really push for that kind of true change so that we can do better by our survivors as a whole.
Heather, Snelgrove now has 30 days to appeal, and that is his right. Like, when you consider that it's already been 7 years, I mean, the conversations about victimization and re-victimization that emerged throughout that process, I mean, what could an appeal mean for Jane Doe?
If the appeal was to go forward and through some twist be granted, then it falls on the Crown to try and create a fourth trial, and it falls on Jane whether or not she needs to testify a fourth time. And I think that's just absolutely abhorrent if we get to that point. There is absolutely no reason she should have to be put through that.
Heather, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you.
There are tough decisions to be made.
We're also looking at asset monetization.
I really don't think that the government has that mandate from the people to just start having a fire sale of public assets.
Well, independent MHA Paul Lane says if the government wants to sell off some assets, it's time to talk publicly about it. Welcome back to Here and Now. We're going to bring back Here and Now's Peter Cowan. The Eastern Health Authority just released an update on some services coming back online. So Peter is live in the newsroom. What is Eastern Health saying?
Yeah, Carolyn, there's lots of information coming in as we're on the air, so we want to keep you up to date. Earlier on the show, I told you that the key computer systems for lab work and imaging are back up and running. So just a couple minutes ago, Eastern Health announced that blood collection will resume on Monday. So if you missed your appointment and you're in the St. John's area, you'll have to either call or go online starting Monday to rebook that appointment. For the Clarenville, Bonavista, and Burin areas, they'll call you to rebook. For medical imaging, they're focusing on priority cases, so they're resuming some service but not everything, and they'll call you to rebook. There's still no word on restarting elective surgery, so we'll have to wait until next week in order to see what's happening. And just literally a minute ago, Labrador Grenfell Health announced that they are going to be back up and running full capacity. They're not expected to have any impact on services starting Monday, so they are the first health authority to see a full resumption of services after the cyber attack 2 weeks ago. Reporting live from the newsroom, I'm Peter Cowan for Here and Now.
Well, if you were following the Liberal Party's annual general meeting over the weekend, some comments from Andrew Furey during his speech may have caught your attention. The Premier told the party faithful that some tough decisions need to be made in light of the province's dire financial situation.
My friends, we all know there are tough decisions to be made. And the people of Newfoundland and Labrador want us to keep making them. They are ready.
We're also looking at asset monetization. So if we happen to sell an asset that we have, we will pay that down on debt, and that will help us as we move forward.
And those comments also caught the attention of independent MHA Paul Lane. He joins me now. So what specifically concerns you when you hear the Premier talking about tough choices? Well,
First thing I want to say is that I'm fully cognizant of the financial situation that we are in as a province, and I'm open to any discussions. I've said that from the very beginning, any discussions that can be had to find ways to try to solve our fiscal woes. I'm certainly open to that. But you know, when I heard commentary from the Deputy Premier, Cody, as well as Premier Furey around tough choices around the possibility of selling off assets. Of course, this was something that came up in the Green Report. At the time, they said it was simply recommendations. And I know leading up to the last provincial election, opposition parties, as well as myself and others, were calling upon the government to release the contents of the Green Report. They said it wasn't ready. We had suggested, and I still feel that it was perhaps withheld prior to election day. Now we're seeing them talking about selling off assets. So, you know, again, while I'm open to having that conversation, I really don't think that the government has that mandate from the people to just start having a fire sale of public assets.
They did win a slim majority.
They did, and I'm certainly not discounting that in any way. But I do think that, you know, that once these assets are gone, they're gone for good. And if we're talking about things like whether it be our equity stake in oil and gas, whether it be hydro assets, whether it be Marble Mountain, whether it be Newfoundland Liquor Corporation, so on, these are all individual conversations, unique conversations. They all have their own set of impacts on the province and on the people of the province. So I think that they need to be discussed on an individual basis. I think there needs to be full public consultation on each of these issues, and I think that there should be a full debate in the House of Assembly with all the information. And when I say all the information, for the government to simply stand up and say, well, we've examined it, we've had our people examine it, and we feel it's the right way to go, that is not sufficient as far as I'm concerned. So I would want to have all of the facts and figures, all the pros and cons around each decision.
To deal with the province's financial situation, it's going to take more than just layoffs and tax increases. It looks like we're going to have to do something more. Are you open to the idea of selling assets? Do you think it'll need to happen?
There's no doubt when you look at where we're to financially, you know, that these are options that have to be, absolutely have to be discussed. I'm not saying that I'm going to be against them. There are some things that come to mind, like when we look at, you know, perhaps vacant government buildings, schools and so on, that could and should be sold. We're still paying like electricity bills and so on to keep empty buildings going. They absolutely should. Personally, on a personal level, I believe that Marble Mountain, I don't think the government should be in the business of running ski hills, as an example. When we look at equity stakes, you know, at the time in oil and gas, at the time it may have been considered perhaps a good idea, but you know, certainly as we move forward, you have to ask yourself, do we even have the fiscal capacity to get into the game of equity stakes when it comes to oil and gas? And I would say as well to the Premier that I think the people of Newfoundland and Labrador have been pretty clear over the last number of years that they want all of us to work together, regardless of political stripe or if we have a political stripe at all. And so, you know, I'm saying to the Premier that I'm not here to be obstructive to the process. I'm actually here to be supportive to the process. And I'm willing to work together. I know in talking to my other colleagues, Perry Trimper and Leila Evans and Eddie Joyce, they feel the same way. We want to work together with all members of the House Assembly to do what's best for the people of Newfoundland and Labrador.
Hey, Pauline, thank you so much.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Well, most people typically don't start their day by eating a candy bar or ice cream, but what many don't realize is that there can be a lot of sugar in their morning hit of caffeine. CBC's Marketplace compared the sugar content in some popular drive-through drinks. Charles Ciagro takes a closer look at what we are sipping on.
Yeah, could I please have one medium double-double?
Okay. It's a Canadian classic. But turns out your Tim Hortons medium double-double is anything but.
It's got 4 teaspoons of sugar, plus the additional teaspoon from your dairy product.
Tim Hortons says its classic combination is designed to taste the same no matter what size you order. They use dairy and sweetener dispensers to ensure consistency in every cup. Liver specialist and gastroenterologist Dr. Supriya Joshi says our sugary caffeine fixes are a problem.
I think people are addicted to sweet and it's leading to a healthcare crisis.
Especially when you consider sugar and calorie content. That medium double-double, well, it's similar to a caramel bar.
I think a lot of people sometimes will think just about the calorie standpoint, not factoring in also the sugar. Could I have a grande matcha green tea latte, please?
Marketplace took a closer look at the sugar content in some popular drinks from other chains across the country.
Vanilla chai ice frappe. Thank you.
Dietitians warn even drinks with trendy, nutritionally inspired names can pack an extra sweet punch.
I find people that I've spoken to consider those natural ingredients or natural flavors. And usually anything with a natural connotation is seen as positive, but not necessarily so.
With a whopping 19 teaspoons of sugar, the biggest shock of all the drinks we purchased came from McDonald's and its medium vanilla chai iced frappe.
This would translate to, from a calorie and a sugar standpoint, 2 cups of a caramel praline ice cream.
McDonald's didn't answer our questions about the sugar content in its drinks. Starbucks told us customers can customize many of their beverages by ordering them unsweetened or sweetened to their preference. Still, experts recommend you treat all of these sweet drinks like dessert and only enjoy them every once in a while. Charles Ciagro, CBC News, Toronto.
Wow, tune in tonight for even more sugar shock. Plus, the team tests sparkling water. Tune in tonight at 8:30 p.m. Island time on CBC TV and CBC Gem, a half hour earlier in most parts of Labrador. Well, the COP26 environmental conference has gone into overtime in Scotland. Climate activists are already calling COP26 a failure. They staged a mass walkout earlier in the day. The key sticking point is the issue of carbon trading. Many participants believe the practice will simply allow rich, high-emitting nations to avoid any meaningful reductions. Well, Turkish authorities have stopped allowing people from Iraq, Syria, and Yemen to fly from Turkey to Belarus. The goal is to curb illegal migrant crossings from Belarus into the European Union. Now, the EU is urging other Middle Eastern countries to follow suit. The UN Security Council has accused Belarus of using migrants to destabilize the EU's eastern border. Briar Stewart has more on the worsening humanitarian crisis.
Nighttime doesn't get any easier along the Poland-Belarus border. In the light, the scale of this humanitarian crisis is obvious. The solution to it isn't. As children take part in protests along the border, the politics continue to ramp up on all sides. It seems that our Western neighbors are ready to start a conflict, said Belarus's Minister of National Defense after staging military drills with Russia today. Russia later confirmed 2 of its paratroopers were killed in this exercise, which unfolded in an area already gripped by heightened tension. Belarus's national airline, along with Turkish Airlines, said they will no longer fly citizens from Iraq, Yemen, and Syria into Minsk after facing pressure from EU officials for their apparent role in contributing to the crisis.
People are being sold a lie by smugglers, international smuggling networks.
mordu et blessé à la tête.
This man tried to get into Poland 6 times and was attacked by a dog guarding the border along with Polish soldiers. He said he was, however, thankful for the assistance from the Belarusian guards.
Very good, the police. Very, very, very good.
His asylum claim is now being processed in Poland, but like others, he dreamed of going further to Germany. But the EU is not throwing open its borders. It, along with the U.S., says new sanctions will be levied against Belarus in the coming days. The country's authoritarian leader, Alexander Lukashenko, said that if it is hit with more sanctions, it would stop natural gas from transiting through Belarus and onto Germany. That would be bad news for a continent already dealing with a gas shortage. But today, the Kremlin distanced itself from that threat, saying Russia was never consulted. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Moscow.
time to find out who's celebrating. Happy 50th anniversary to Edward and Greta Royal of Grand Bank. Tom and Dorcas Hall from Newtown and Cape Friels are also celebrating a 50th anniversary. The couple now lives in paradise. Congratulations to Mike and Rose Coombs on their 60th anniversary tomorrow. They're from Portugal Cove South and now live in Kelligrews. Happy 50th wedding anniversary to Ed and Daphne Curtis of Trepassey. Anniversary greetings going out to Barbara and Frank Brown of Happy Valley Goose Bay. They're celebrating 51 years of marriage. Happy 60th anniversary to Bob and Jean Boise of Mount Pearl. Love from family and friends. Best wishes going out to Ruby and Hayward Legg of Cavendish on their 57th anniversary. Happy anniversary to Tom and Ann Kiersey. They are celebrating their 65th anniversary today. Bill and Mabel Bartlett of Carpoon are also celebrating 65 years of marriage. Congratulations. Happy 60th wedding anniversary yesterday to Faith and Charles Squires of St. John's. Floyd and Olga Shears from Rocky Harbor are celebrating their 68th anniversary. Lloyd and Mary Ellen Glover of Wareham, Bonavista Bay are celebrating their 57th wedding anniversary. Happy 58th anniversary to John and Susan Bromley of Conch. Congratulations to Ralph and Hannah Crane on their 57th anniversary. They're from Pines Cove and now live in Grand Falls, Windsor. Happy 59th anniversary to Brenda and Stuart Ralph of Point Leamington. Happy anniversary to Gordon and Mary Vallis of Harbour Breton, who are celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary. Best wishes to Grace and Claude Pike on their 50th wedding anniversary. They were married in Grand Falls, Windsor. Brian and Faye Haynes of Deer Lake are celebrating 50 years of marriage today. Congratulations. And congratulations to Donald and Lisa Hurd. They're celebrating their 66th wedding anniversary. Happy 65th anniversary to Harold and Margaret Manuel of Lewisport. Love from family and friends. Best wishes going out to John and Phyllis Bartlett, who are celebrating 50 beautiful years of marriage tomorrow. Happy 50th wedding anniversary also to Rod and Dora Parsons of Gander. It's a 52nd wedding anniversary for Ernest and Maxine Jones of St. John's. Congratulations. Wishing William and Mary Jordan from Harbor Grace a happy 59th wedding anniversary. Now to some birthdays. Hannah Park from McIvers in Bay of Islands is celebrating her 93rd birthday. Happy 92nd birthday to Annie Candow. Love from family and friends. Best wishes going out to Verna White, who is turning 91 on November 18th. Birthday greetings going out to Bert Chard, who celebrated his 90th birthday on November 6th. We're told his favorite saying is, "The first 100 years are the hardest." Happy birthday to Agnes Bartlett of Marysvale. She'll be 90 on Monday. Happy 91st birthday to Andrew Norman of Long Harbor, Placentia Bay. Happy 94th birthday to Kay Smith in Witless Bay. We're told she's still living in her own home. Happy 91st birthday to Lydia Collier, also known as Big Nan by her grandchildren. She lives in Rose Blanche. Happy birthday to Margaret King on her 92nd birthday on November 2nd. She lives in St. John's. Wishing Gladys Codner of Torbay a happy 90th birthday. Lots of love from family and friends. Happy birthday to Lillian Park, who turns 95 tomorrow. Wishing Don Roblin from Torbay a happy 90th birthday yesterday. Happy 90th birthday also to Charlie Morgan of Seal Cove, CBS. And we will end on a big one. Birthday greetings going out to Maggie Short of Southbrook, who will be 102 on Sunday, and she still lives in her own home. Hope you have a wonderful birthday. Another fine crowd. Congratulations once again. And another reason to celebrate, it's Friday. The weekend's here and it's going to be kind of mild, right?
Yep, it's going to be mild for the island anyway. We're going to see lots of snow up across Labrador, but double-digit temperatures. If you like that, there's lots more where that came from on Sunday. Let's take a look at the future tracker. That area of low pressure is still going to be with us pretty much through the day on Sunday. So this is overnight and then into the morning hours. And then another area of low pressure develops Sunday morning, and that's going to bring the chance of some more rain through the day on Sunday. And then eventually Looks like it'll transition through to some wet snow and or flurries in some of those higher elevations on Sunday evening as that area of low pressure moves off. It moves through quite quickly, and then some more snow up across Labrador. It is looking like a very unsettled pattern over the next couple of days. By the time we get into Monday night and into the beginning of Tuesday, the next weather maker moves in. This one's going to bring some more rain and then some more snow up through Labrador. So as far as Sunday goes, going to hang on to those double-digit temperatures for most of us across the island. Single digits though as you head towards the west coast, about 8 degrees in Corner Brook for you on Sunday. Temperatures will be hovering somewhere between 2 and -2. Or -2 and 2, I should say, up across Labrador with a chance of light snow or flurries continuing through the afternoon. And then as we get into Monday, the temperatures are going to drop. This is back where we should be sitting this time of year, about 5, 6, 7 degrees, 8 in Marystown with that chance of showers generally continuing. May see a few peaks of sun in the east, but overall it will be an unsettled day. And then again, light snow for Labrador, Lab City going down to about -2 for you on Monday. After we get through the weekend and into the next week, that's again when our next weather maker moves in. Tuesday, looking at those double-digit temperatures returning, windy conditions along with some rain again. And then as we get into Wednesday, it looks like some showers, but then into the evening hours that will transition to the potential either wet snow or snow through the evening hours. About 2 degrees will be the overnight low for St. John's and eastern Newfoundland as we get into next week. And then for central Newfoundland, I have the same thing in there for you, but your temperature's a little bit cooler. So maybe even a few peaks of sun on Wednesday. And then flurries the story for western Newfoundland as we get into midweek next week, hovering around 1 degree. So temperatures are going to drop quite a bit. And then for eastern Labrador, pretty much just looking at snow or flurries right into midweek next week between 0 and 2 degrees, and then a few degrees below 0 for western Labrador through Wednesday. So this shot was shared to me by Tom. These are some gravity wave clouds over Goulds. If you saw them, that's exactly what they are. I thought this was such a great shot, and I wanted to share that with all of you. Gravity wave clouds.
What is that?
That's just the atmosphere. It's the way the atmosphere is a little bit unsettled, and then it creates those clouds.
Oh,
pretty neat, hey?
Yeah, it looks like some snowmen or some tracks.
Yeah, more like tracks, snow tracks, I guess, snowmobile tracks. If you have any weather photos that you would like to share with us, on the nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, very cool. Thank you so much, Tom, for sending that in. And thank you so much for joining us on this fine Friday. I hope you can be with us again on Monday. Have a great weekend.
Good night.